most wonderful time of the year, college football bowl season, baby. And there are 42 bowl and playoff games to keep us entertained for almost 3.5 weeks. Starting with Toledo versus Middle Tennessee State and going through the national championship on Monday, January 10th, pick your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper and get every college football bowl game they release, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35 for the low price of $149. As an added bonus, make sure to download the free WagerTalk College Football Bowl Guide by going to wt.buzz/rm. From everyone at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, good luck this college football bowl season.
Happy Wednesday, guys. Welcome back right here to WagerTalk TV. This is another episode of Puck Time. We have a small slate today, but as you guys have found out, sometimes these small slates can be the most profitable ones and some pretty good games to go over today. We have the Flyers, Devils, Avalanche, and the Rangers, Bruins and Canucks, and the Stars and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So some really good games on tap for us to discuss. Best bets at the end. And a little bit of a schedule shakeup today. We have Brian Leonard on with us instead of the Prez, and we'll have the Prez on tomorrow. Before I go to Brian, I'll bring in my co-host here, Carmine and Bianco. What's up, Carm?
Not much. I'm just going to say Prez isn't here, I think, because after what happened in that Leafs game yesterday, I think I would have this would be an R-rated show today. Andrew, apologies on that best bet yesterday on the show. It was actually one of my client plays as well, too. The Maple Leafs, 5-1. Come on, guys. 5-1 entering the third period, and they get scored on with 0.3 seconds left on the clock to kill the puck line bet. 5-4, that game ends. Just another reason to dislike this franchise for me, Andrew. Or maybe it was just karma getting me back, but a 1-3 night in NHL. I'm not happy about that. The Leafs puck line would have made it a 2-2 night, which still for me is unacceptable, but would have been a lot better, of course, overall. I hope it was a better night for you, Brian.
Actually, I had a 9-day winning streak going into yesterday. I split my hockey plays, juiced out, split my basketball plays, juiced out. So I ended up losing a little bit. But the unfortunate thing was I was a $2 Tuesday play, and I had UMass in basketball, college basketball, up by 9 in the second half, catching points. Thought I was in pretty good shape, and they ended up falling behind and never caught back. So now we've won 9 out of 10 days overall for our clients. So, but a little bit upset about how that went because, if you're the $2 Tuesday guy, you got to be able to win. And unfortunately, we haven't had that great of success. And I've been pretty good on it, but I didn't do my job yesterday.
Well, Brian, winning 9 out of 10 of the last 10 days is something to be proud of and happy with. So I get it. Yesterday, $2 Tuesday, your team was up and it was looking good. But as well as all of us, don't judge yourself off one day. It's the large scale. So I love when you come on here and you mention the longer term stats. You're never satisfied with just 1 day or 3 days. It's all about the long term. So I can definitely respect that. And for me, it was a split in hockey yesterday, 1-1. I'll tell you guys, Edmonton, that was a best bet loser for me on this show. I fell for the trap at home with that Edmonton Oilers team. The red hot Minnesota Wild get it done in dominating fashion pretty much, guys. And then I had the Ducks as my other play. But I'll tell you, Carm, that play I stayed off of with the Rangers, I was kind of, I was mad at myself for that one, man, because they exploded. It was a cheap price. I just couldn't get to the window with it.
Yeah, and here's, Andrew, and here's the thing is this is how my night went in the sense of I already said 1-3, not the greatest of nights, but I jumped in front of that Rangers train and took some, just personally, not a client play, took some Chicago plus money, and it looked good going to the third period, but they just got, that train just steamrolled them. And then even like a couple of other plays, the same thing, the Oilers play, the Flames play. So overall, it was an ugly night. I'm glad it's behind me, and let's move forward. Only 4 games, so it was easy to pick the 4 that we're going to preview today.
Yeah, I couldn't really get at you for picking any games I didn't want to talk about today. So we have 4 games we're going to discuss. Let's get into the first one here. Philadelphia Flyers, New Jersey Devils. New Jersey, they're minus 160 at home. The struggling Philadelphia Flyers are plus 135 on the highway here. And It's interesting, guys, because a lot of people love that bet on spot, taking a team that day after their first game, after their coach gets canned and a new coach is named. I wanted to follow up on that because I used that theory and I bet on Vancouver in their last game. I stayed off this Philadelphia spot, mostly because I just don't think they're as good as Vancouver, and I don't really like them. But I will say this, it's a different situation because the coach that took over was an interim head coach, was a coach that was already on the team. Last year when this happened with the Canadians, it actually took a couple of games for them to get going. To me, this is a completely different handicap because that coach was already on the bench. That coach was already a part of the team. It's not like Bruce Boudreau with the Canucks has just walked in a new face, a stranger to the locker room, and he's setting up all this new stuff. Mike Yeo was already a part of this team, and so I feel like it's a little bit of a different handicap here. But the Devils are minus 160. It seems like kind of the story with them right now. I think they're having trouble defensively, Carm, but some of their star players are starting to play consistent hockey. What are your thoughts here on this game? Because I'm not really sure how to approach it due to the big price here.
Yeah, it's you can if you're looking for a narrative, you can find a couple in there, but again, you can make anything fit a narrative. I'm looking at the under here. When you look at these teams and two teams that are struggling, and there's some high score lines there, you're like, how can you take an under? Well, it's at 6, and you figure. Yes, there's a new coach there. That was that 7-5 game against Colorado. They actually played well. It's hard to understand how you can allow 7 goals and play well, but play well offensively, not defensively. And they've not lost 9 straight. And here's where the narrative sort of comes in, this Philadelphia team. But they've had to play Tampa Bay 3 times, Colorado, Florida, Boston, and Carolina. 7 of those losses. Or 8 of those losses were to those teams. The only other game was to this Devils team where they lost 5-2 in that game. So 9 straight losses. But as far as unders go on the road, 8-2 thus far with unders. You look at the Devils; they're 2-8 in their last 10. These are 2 teams in need of a win. So sometimes you get a better defensive battle when you need a win. It's going back to the roots of how you win hockey games: defense first. I'm a contrarian here because a lot of people love the over in this game. I'm going the other way. I'm going to go under. Brian?
This is one of those games that you've got 2 teams playing terrible right now, and I think there's value on Philadelphia. Andrew made a great point about the coaching change, and that definitely has an effect, but I thought they played pretty well in that game, and it's tough when you make the coaching change and then your first game out is playing Colorado, who's getting healthy. So I'm not going to discount them for giving up the 7 goals. You lose 2 goals. I don't care if you lose, 8-6 or 2-0. You're losing by 2 goals, and it's hard to back Jersey here in this situation. As poorly as they played, the only team that they have beaten is Philadelphia. Last time they played them, 5-2, I believe. Same place they played them at home there. So to me, if you take a look at the numbers, neither one of these teams obviously is very good. Philadelphia's shown worse on the season, but the only way I take a look at this is Philadelphia in the game. It's not something that I'm excited about because I'm usually trying to fade Philadelphia, but New Jersey is also a team I've bet against many times. So I know just in general handicapping, when you get 2 teams like this together, if it's near the end of the season, especially in football, you see higher scoring games because they're out of the playoffs. They're done. They just go out there, put on a show, try to pad their stats. It's still too early in the hockey season to worry about things like that. So I can understand your underplay in that regard. But I think there's a little bit of value here on Philadelphia. Don't know if they'll get there, but that's the side I'm looking for in this one.
Yeah, and Andrew, I'm just going to jump in quickly, Brian, to that note, and this is the only reason why I want to take the contrarian play with the under in this is, the Devils aren't Tampa, Colorado, Florida with the offenses that those teams have. Philly was on the wrong end of those because they were allowing 5, 6, 7 goals. That's what's going to happen. This New Jersey team isn't a high-scoring unit, not in my mind anyways. So it's the only reason I can make for one of those grind out 3-2 type games. But it's also one where you probably have to have that bottle of Tums on your nightstand to watching the game, because it's going to give you an upset stomach for sure.
It'll definitely be a weird game to watch. Important to mention as well, last time these two teams did meet, New Jersey won 5-2. But I will second the whole scheduling talk here because I think it's an important factor. I think it helps both Carm's argument and Brian's argument, because you look at the teams Philadelphia has played. They've played the cream of the crop recently on a large scale, pretty much their last 10 games. Besides that game against New Jersey, who's the team they're playing tonight, they've played really tough competition or respectable teams, So it's not like we can sit here. The problem is that not only are they giving up goals, they're struggling to score themselves, giving up 7, giving up 4, 5, 6. And in those games, only scoring 1, 2, 3 maybe. So that's really the problem. Can we trust them to score against the Devils, a team known for giving up goals themselves? We'll have to find that out. But for me, I'd be right there with Brian, because I just don't love this price, but I'm not sure how much I love the Flyers either. So it might be a pass for me on this game altogether. Colorado Avalanche and the New York Rangers. We have the Rangers at home plus 145, Colorado on the highway minus 170. Total is at 6. And I'll go to you in this game here, Brian. I want to ask you about this Rangers team, because they are red hot right now. They're playing excellent hockey. Chris Kreider has been outstanding. As Carm mentioned, last night, that game was pretty close for the most part, and then the Rangers kind of exploded here. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, two teams that, based on line, you'd like to be able to back. The Rangers have just been excellent at home all season long. I believe they're 8-1 at home on the season, and you're getting them in this underdog price is pretty large. In fact, it's getting larger as money continues to come in on Colorado. But then again, when you take a look at the two teams from a talent standpoint, Colorado is one of those teams that many think are going to make a run at the championship this year. The Rangers playing a little bit over their heads. If you take a look at Evolving Hockey's goals plus or minus per 60, you see the Rangers, it's plus 0.32 on the season. But from an expected goal standpoint, they're down 0.08. So they're playing a little bit over their heads right now. And the scheduling situation isn't the greatest. I believe the Avalanche have the better schedule here, at least from my eyes. And Colorado's a team that's, they're basically 500 ball club on the road, but we know what they've done in the past. And it's really tough handicap for me, because if you like Colorado, you have to get over the Rangers being so good at home. If you like the Rangers, you got to get over if Colorado has been an injured team a lot this season, very similar to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, where they're getting healthy now, and it's one of the best teams in hockey. So tough call for myself. Out of the 4 games, this is my weakest call. And to be honest with you, I like Colorado a little bit, but I don't want to lay this line now that the line's gone up.
Carmine, what about yourself here?
Yeah, I jumped in front of the Rangers yesterday. It didn't work. Do I want to side in this one? Probably not, just because we don't know who the goalies are. It's likely going to be Georgiev again. I think they might give Shea Sturkin another day off for that groin. And then as far as Colorado goes, we talked about Comfort before. Comfort was questionable, and I said, to just keep an eye on the goaltending situation there. If it was with the backup or the E-bug, that overlooked good. And it's probably the same scenario here, even though the Rangers, both these teams are scoring goals. The Avs are 10-3-2 to the over their last 15, and 7-3-2 to the over on the road. Two teams scoring goals. If we get the backup goalies in net, if it's Anuin, I think his name is, and it's Georgiev, even though Georgiev did play well last time out, playing 2 again on a back-to-back. The same goalie twice, that it's usually a fade, but this time I'll just lean to the over here.
There's a potential, Carm, we might see a NHL debut tonight. So I'm not 100% sure if we'll get that. Adam Huska for the New York Rangers. So I'm not 100% sure. Like you said, we don't have these confirmations, but it is interesting. I think Shesterkin, just like you, I think he's still out indefinitely, and Georgiev, yeah, decent game for him last night. And we mentioned it. And Buster had a good point on the show yesterday talking about, hey, when your number one guy goes down, the number two guy has to step up and realize he's the man for a little while at least. And that's what Georgiev is now. The time for us to find out if he's going to go back to back. Like you said, it's usually a pretty good fade spot or an over spot when you see any goalie that has to play 2 straight games. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
2 games
and,
in a lot of, even 2 days is a lot.
Yeah, and the streak is the streak is fantastic. You want to continue to win games, but I don't think you want to put, if Shesterkin isn't 100% ready, you can't put him in there because this game is meaningless to the long term of this team. But the end game, which is make the playoffs, a high position, and eventually win the conference and make it to the cup. So if he's not ready, because Shesterkin had those problems last season. So this is, you don't want. When it's a growing problem, you're very careful. So I just can't see them rushing him back unless he's 100%. As I said this morning on a couple of these sites, one being RotoWire, I saw Shesterkin was expected to play, and then about an hour later that got changed. So I'm not sure if those change on some information that's coming off the ice. Who's in the morning skate? Who's in the starters box? So we'll see. That news will be out in about an hour's time, anyways.
Yeah, we'll find that soon. I'll tell you, I'm looking towards the over here, and just like Brian, I am wanting to bet on Colorado in some way, shape, or form. Just not exactly sure how I would do that quite yet. Just like Brian said, with the price we're getting with them, but I do think it's justified. Let's break down this Vancouver Canucks and Boston Bruins game, guys. Because the Vancouver Canucks, obviously, they were not looking good for a long, long time. They cleared the house. GM gone, head coach gone. And enter Bruce Boudreau. He gets the win. For good spot for them against the LA Kings. I liked it. But let's find out what they can do tonight against the Boston Bruins here. Vancouver plus 115 at home. Boston minus 135 on the road here. I mentioned this when I was frantically trying to end the show yesterday, Carm, that there were some sicknesses and illnesses for the Bruins. I was checking the clock right in front of my eyes and seeing that we had no time left on puck time, but I wanted to get that information out. I hope some people maybe did get that bet out if you do like Vancouver anyway, but there are some illnesses right now throughout the Boston Bruins team, really defensively as well. The question is, does that really matter in a game like this? Are the Vancouver Canucks going to turn things around, or can they only do it against the LA Kings in a bad spot? Those are all the questions here. I'll throw it to you, Karen, for your thoughts. And hopefully I frantically tried to get some information to people, and hopefully people were able to understand what I was saying.
Yeah, no, listen, I get what you're saying and stuff. Again, these are these 4 games today aren't the greatest of games to talk about. But you look at Vancouver, yeah, they've won 3 of 4, but I'm not ready to say that they've turned the corner because 2 of those games were Montreal and Ottawa, 2 teams struggling immensely, much like themselves. And then catching the Kings in what was a bad scheduling spot. And I thought it was a bad scheduling spot that we talked about. And, and they win that game 4-0. I think this is probably one that goes a little closer to their game 2 back against Pittsburgh, a team that, again, we talked about playing extremely well defensively and turning it around. This Boston team can play. That game, they lost that game against Tampa Bay 3-2, but they completely outplayed them, outshot them by, I think, 20 shots. They just Tampa is Tampa. There's what can you say, that they're one of the greatest franchises around. So the way I'm looking at it, you're getting a small price, Andrew. I know I went off on a tangent. You're getting a small price on the Bruins, 135, 140. Could have something to do with those illnesses. There's nothing reported as of yet that I'm seeing. So going on the fact that this will be their regular squad playing tonight, I've just got to lean on the Bruins here. I think you're getting a short price, 135, 140, I think is a good price here. Brian?
Yeah, I agree. The money has come in on Vancouver overnight because of all the injuries for Boston here, and maybe some people buying into the coaching change and management change in Vancouver. I look at very similar to what you talked about. From a scheduling standpoint, you've got Boston, who played Saturday, lost at home to Tampa Bay in overtime, 3 days off. And now they're playing Vancouver, and then tomorrow they play Edmonton, and then on Saturday they play Calgary, and then on Tuesday they play the Vegas Golden Knights. So you're playing wrapped around Vancouver, which is one of the worst teams in the league. We know that. You got Tampa Bay, Edmonton Oilers, Calgary, and the Golden Knights. So this is the one game that Boston needs to have. 3 days off coming into this game. They've got a winning record on the road. I believe they're 5-4. Nothing overly impressive, but they've been able to win on the road. Vancouver's played 12 home games, and they've only won 4 of them. So I understand you're catching Vancouver. Probably you're betting them low. I understand that. With the coaching change, management change, I said this is the time for Vancouver to make their run. But when you have a veteran team in Boston playing a little bit shorthanded, and you've got 3 really good teams coming up, this is a game they need to have. And I agree with you, Carmine, on that. The line's a little cheap right now. And I think this may be the low point in the day on what you can get if they come out and show some of these players that they thought were not going to play come back in. They're going to shoot up to the 150, 160 range. So I like Boston here, and I think this is probably the best time of the day to get this bet in.
I love it. I love feeling like we're talking about the stock market here, except we're talking about the betting market. And, you look at that Monday Night Football game, Brian, where you had, if you like the Bills, grab that -2.5. If you like the Patriots, grab that +3. And even though hockey isn't a point spread sport, just like Brian said, you can kind of figure where the market's going to go based on information. If you should bet on something overnight, if you should wait until the morning or afternoon to grab it. I know Mid-Major Matt always says to our viewers on Prop It Up, wait until Saturday or Sunday if you want to bet the under on some props, because people love to bet those over and you'll get a better number, Saturday or Sunday on those props. I'll tell you guys, I like the over in this game. That's where I'd go. I think that I thought there might have been some value last night on the Canucks. I'll be honest, I did mention that. But the guys that are out, like, Coyle, Nosek, Grzelcyk, those guys are defensive differences. We've got Brad Marchand back after serving his suspension. So I'm going to kind of back out from picking a side here, fellas, and just go ahead with the over 5.5 because I expect some sloppy hockey on the back end, but some quality hockey in the front and from the forwards tonight. So hopefully those guys being out and Vancouver still being a little shaky defensively helps me get to the window on that over. Dallas Stars, Vegas Golden Knights. Brian, you live in Vegas here. We'll start with you. What are your thoughts here on this Golden Knights team right now and in this matchup against the Dallas team that's playing some pretty good hockey, man?
Yeah, I'll be going to the game tonight. Went to the game the other day when they played Calgary. Vegas played, I thought, their best overall game last time out. The passing was very crisp. They looked really good defensively, even though they gave up a couple goals. I thought Vegas was tremendous defensively in that game. And it's a buy sign on Vegas. Problem is, everybody else is looking at it too. So we've got a Vegas team who scored 11 goals their last 2 times out. And that's been a problem this year, especially in the power play. But now they got Pacioretty back. Stone is back. They've got a lot of good players. Carlson came back last game, which was a little bit of a surprise to me that he came back. I know he's coming back from COVID, but with the broken ankle, I thought he'd be out for a little bit longer. But he came back and he played well. He said he felt very good in that game, and they looked very good against a red-hot Calgary team that played really well until the last couple of days. They blew that 3-1 lead yesterday and losing to San Jose. But Vegas is a bet-on team right now. Now, the only problem is you're laying into a Dallas team who has won 9 out of the last 10 games, allowing 21 goals the last 10 games. They're playing great defense. Only one of those opponents scored more than 2 goals against them. I believe they gave up 7 in one game. So Dallas defensively is playing tremendous right now. Vegas, at least based on the last 2 games, now that they're fully healthy with the forwards, they're shooting the puck very well. Martinez is still out. That's a big defensive hole for Vegas. The guy just puts his body out there each and every day, and he gets hurt a lot. But you got to love the guy. I mean, he's a heart and soul of that defense. And he's not out there right now. So this is a really tough game. I could see the main reason why you would want to play Dallas, a value reason, and you play in Dallas. But you got a Vegas team who's playing better. So 2 teams that really I like to bet. But I think the Dallas side is the stronger side here. I like the line here. Plus, if you remember, just a couple of years ago, Vegas was cruising to a chance to play in the Stanley Cup Finals. Going up against Dallas, Dallas completely shut them down. They haven't played that well against Dallas. And so here we are coming in hot and offensively going against a team which has just been terrific defensively. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. And in a lower scoring game, who would I rather have? I'd rather have Dallas. So I like the Dallas in this game. And I think the money line is probably about 15 cents higher than how I would make it.
You look at the goals allowed for Dallas recently, just like Brian mentioned, with how great defensively they've been. Last 7 games, 5 of those times, Dallas only allowed 1 goal. The other 2 times, Dallas allowed 2 goals. So not only is their offense clicking right now, they are shutting teams down defensively. And I think that, you mentioned these teams and kind of the matchup, I would say a little rivalry they developed, Brian. It's because both teams are tough to play against. They're both physical. They both play really tight, make the ice really small. But, 5 of the last 7 games for this Dallas team, only allowing 1 goal. Pretty impressive, Carm.
Yeah, listen, I echo a lot of what Brian said. And he's sporting the Golden Knights jersey for tonight's game that he's going to watch. But this Dallas team's playing well. 9-1 their last 10, but 8 of those games were at home. They went 1-1 on the road. I think they're 4-6 thus far on the road. If you like the Golden Knights, maybe that gives you a little bit of hope. For me, it's looking at the total here. Like you guys tied. I think this game plays similar to that 3-2 Calgary game. Dallas is playing well. They're keeping pucks out of the net. Historically, they're 11-2-2 to the under in the 15 games that these teams have played, including the playoffs. So 2 very good teams playing some very good hockey. I'm going to lean to the under here. I have to.
I'm right there with you. I think if I'm playing the total in this game, it should be a really great defensive game. Like I said, Carm, these 2 teams just make it hard for their opponents. They play tight checking. They're physical. They are not a team that, as much as both teams can have, spurts of fast hockey, I feel like they spend lots of time in their offensive zone. They hold it along the wall quite a bit, and that really does help an under. So it should be a really good game. Looking forward to tonight's slate, guys. There's 4 games. We mentioned only 4 games on the slate for tonight. We do have some best bets. And Brian, you've been red hot, man, across the board, but NHL, not just the last 3 days, not 1 day, not 7 days, across the board. Last year, you were number 2 entire season. What's going on for you tonight at WagerTalk.com?
That damn Andrew McInnis continues to win in hockey, keeps me out of the number 1 for the last month. I think I tied you. We were pretty close, and then you run off a 3-0 day.
It's funny, Brian, because it came down to that. Because I was checking I checked the last 30 days, and it was like 10 o'clock local time for me, and I was number 2, and I was waiting for like one or two plays to come in, and then I checked it in the morning, and it was so. You were there. I
was there one day. One day I passed you up, and then you came back and did your best. Congratulations! You just had a tremendous season. I know Carmine's had a tremendous run in hockey, and it's just one of those years that started off slow once again, same as last year, and then been on a nice run. Number 2, you're number 1 over the last 30 days. College basketball, also number 2 over the last 30 days. Like I said, I had a 9-game winning streak. Yesterday split out, going 2-2, losing like 1.6 units in juice. But tonight I've got 1 hockey play up on the site, and I have 4 college basketball, and I put them in one package, $29. And college basketball has been tremendous on this season. Split out yesterday. Like I said, did lose that $2 play on UMass, but won my other play. But really like the card today, even though it's small card in the NHL, found a play to put up. And 4 college basketball. So that's what I got going today. And from a best bet standpoint, if you want me to just get into the best bet, I'll go with the Boston. I talked about that a little bit earlier. I love the scheduling standpoint for Boston. 3 days off an overtime loss, 3 really good teams on deck. In Vancouver, a team that I expect to be able to make some money on. I just don't think we'd be able to do it here. Money's come in on Vancouver, which puts us in a nice spot here to play Boston. And we'll lay the 135 or whatever it is on Boston.
Great short price there on the Boston Bruins on the money line on the road there. Best of luck to Brian tonight. You've been crushing it across the board. Always fun to have you on the show, Brian. So thanks for being here. Carm, let's get to you for your best bet. Before you do that, though, let us all know what you have up at WagerTalk for today.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be an NHL card. I have one play loaded. If you picked up yesterday's NHL pack, that play is in that pack. So make sure you log in to update it. If I have another play, it'll likely go into that same pack again. I won't have a card up. This isn't the strongest of nights in the NHL. So sometimes it's better to pass. Some soccer games up for Champions League final match day today. There's like 8 games, and I probably had about 12 bets that I made, and I've loaded 5 of my better ones. So those are available up at WagerTalk. Best bet, I'm going back to that contrarian view on the Philadelphia and New Jersey game. I'm going to go to the under here. I understand 2 bad teams, but the Flyers are getting a class drop here. If you're a horse racing guy, you'll know sometimes that class drop works. They've had to play Tampa 3 times, Colorado, Florida, Boston, and Carolina in that 9-game losing streak of theirs. So one of the losses was to the Devils. Let's see if they can play better now. I get it, the coaching change or someone who's already there, but let's see if there's any pride in that dressing room. We'll get a tight checking game with the Devils. That's my bet, the under.
All right, Flyers, Devils, under 6 for Carm. Puck time best bet today. I'm awaiting some information still. I want to see some goalie information starters for my NHL pack. So I will have some NHL stuff up. Potentially a bigger play if I do get the right spots that I do want. CFL, we just mentioned it yesterday. Buster has a big play up at Sports Memo. He mentioned that yesterday. And I'll have my Grey Cup play up tonight at WagerTalk.com. Going to be a really great game. Looking forward to the game. I'm heading there, but also we'll have a best bet on that game. Guys, I'm going to go with the over in that Bruins and Canucks game. Over 5.5. The guys that are out for the Bruins aren't offensive players. It's defensive players. That will hurt them defensively. Brad Marchand is back for the Bruins, though. That'll help them offensively. And the Vancouver Canucks, well, you have to think if there was ever a time to have any momentum, I mean, you get one win. It's a pretty decent win for them. They should be feeling pretty good about themselves. Brock Besser, he breaks his goalless drought. Let's hope he can score again and keep this thing going for the Canucks. So I want goals. I hope Brian wins his Bruins bet, but I get some goals here. Bruins, Canucks, over 5.5. All of you guys out there watching live, we really do appreciate you. All of you guys check out the podcast. We appreciate you as well. The power play recap, Bruins, Canucks, over 5.5. Flyers, Devils, under 6. And Brian Leonard, Boston, minus 135. On behalf of Brian, Carm, I'm Andrew. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Founded in 1957, the Gold Sheet is the country's longest-running sports betting newsletter. Each week, the Gold Sheet team delivers analysis on NFL and college football games, along with NBA and college basketball matchups. The Gold Sheet maintains in-depth point spread and results logs, giving sports bettors and enthusiasts the insights needed to maximize their wagers. For over 60 years, Gold Sheet readers have received key releases based on power rankings on all teams, and for the first time ever, you can now get these selections exclusively at goldsheet.com, wagertalk.com, and sportsmemo.com.